However, due to changing social conditions, especially increasing requests from credit card companies and payment providers, the cost of reviewing R18 content has continued to rise. As a result, it has become difficult to maintain our current fee structure while continuing to offer the same level of service. The bad news doesn't stop there. We also have this. Due to local laws, we are temporarily restricting access to this content until X estimates your age. But don't worry, it doesn't stop there. We also have this. UK Online Safety Act takes effect today. Users must verify identity with a third party and scan their face to access adult content online. Proposed screen time limits require age verification for video games exceeding 2 hours. I'll talk more about this in a second, it's very important. Non-compliance fines up to 18 million euro or 10% revenue. Sites may be blocked. Access to porn games, niche gaming forums, or non-state approved content will be restricted. Platforms like Pornhub, Discord, Reddit, and Grindr are compliant. Ofcom investigates 4chan, which may face Cloudflare block under court order. From my understanding, 4chan's already blocked today, so yeah, it has been blocked. Aims to prevent kids from accessing harmful social media content like porn. So, let's get right into this. So, first off, before I really dive into this whole bombshell and talk about how it extends way beyond just, let's say, goon content, and this, if you don't know who this is one of the biggest leakers and, speakers for ReZero online, and he talks about the situation that it's much more than, goon content, adult content that is being censored with that UK Safety Act that came out today. He talks about how it's going to be affecting fiction and just, stuff that, is not real whatsoever, kind of continuing the trend of what we've seen from payment processors. But I'll get into this in a second. I want to talk about Pixiv, because it's very quick, and I can kind of get this out of the way very quickly. So, Pixiv is not ground zero, but very close to ground zero in terms of content being censored or forced to bend the knee to some degree. They were attacked a year plus ago by payment processors like Visa and MasterCard. I made a video talking about this basically over a year ago, but it's an old story that they've already been affected. We've already known that they've been hit for a while, but what this is an update apparently in June, almost a month ago. I didn't even hear about this, but it got brought to my attention, and that's why I'm bringing it up now, and a lot of people might be completely unaware of this, so that's why I'm spreading it. But basically, Pixiv, because of how payment processors are offering and how they're doing certain charges or fees and different things like that, it's causing the cost of basically maintaining R18 content and reviewing the content. It's becoming more expensive thanks to how Visa and MasterCard have such a monopoly. They're draining them dry. And so they're having to raise the fees on the site just to be able to maintain the same level of quality and service, because it's getting so astronomically high, because obviously Visa and MasterCard is choking Pixiv out of anything they possibly can. So once again, about power, about control, about assuming control over other companies, that's what's going on. But basically, this is an old story. This is old news, technically. It's about a month ago, but a lot of people are unaware of this. I just found out about this, so I'm making sure more people are. Now, with that being said, we gotta talk about the elephant in the room, which is this. So, let's begin. If you ever wanted proof that we're living in dark times, then look no further than what's happened in just the last week alone. Obviously, the story of censorship and payment processors assuming control over many sites or forcing Japan to bend the knee stems back years ago. And there's even stuff probably I'm unaware of that came before that. But the big point is, in the last week alone, we have definitely seen a massive acceleration of censorship all across the world. To what Collective Shout did with payment processors causing Steam to remove hundreds of games, to what happened with itch.io removing their entire adult game catalog, housing thousands of games, and people losing their games, not being able to either download them, losing their revenue. It literally put thousands of people without jobs, without the ability to make money anymore. And so many games come from itch.io, so many indie games that eventually branch out and become colossal hits with so many content creators. It was a massive blow what happened the other day, and it's insane to see a site like that get hit so freaking hard. But obviously, it goes much further than that. Today, we have the UK Online Safety Act that officially came into effect. Now, I'm going to be completely blunt. I don't live in the UK. I live in the United States, and I obviously, thankfully, don't have to deal with this. But it is very important to talk about because the situation here obviously showcases an acceleration of society and what is obviously growing. It's a growing trend as of late, and I think everybody is starting to see it. There is this acceleration with many different organizations and groups and stuff to force censorship and control over fictional content. And what we are clearly seeing here is that. And I want to talk about in general what this Online Safety Act is doing. Pirate Nation outlined this, and there's some things I want to talk about here, but basically he brought up all these different things that's going on, and one thing in particular was this one that stood out to me. The required age verification for video games exceeding 2 hours. Basically, screen time limits. And when I read this, I legit, I'm not gonna lie, I chuckled to myself because I thought it was just so, it was so insane. I didn't want to believe it was possible. And I scrolled down just to see, okay? And there is a community note here. And I clicked it and I was like, okay, maybe it's gonna confirm that something's wrong here. This man usually posts accurate information, but I was just curious. So I find the article that's linked here, apparently talking about the 2-hour screen time limit. And I go to it, and it is an official article. There is actual talks for screen time limits and stuff, and it's definitely going to be brought up later this year. Apparently, if you scroll down, you'll literally see them talking about it, that they're wanting to bring it up. So the government, UK, and people probably in Europe as well, are currently discussing 2-hour time limits for people online. For video games. That's, you know what other country does that? China. China does that. I won't even elaborate any further with that one. Anyways, the point of the matter is that Pirate's post here isn't necessarily inaccurate. This technically has been proposed. It's not wrong here. It doesn't mean that it's in the bill, but judging by how they were able to get something like this to pass today and how wide of a net and effect it is having now, it's very obvious that most likely this is going to pass. What makes things even crazier about this entire situation is that, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't live in UK or in Europe, okay? But correct me if I'm wrong, because I remember hearing about it. Didn't the government, like, stop investigation into a PDF ring? Like, affiliated with, like, the government officials or whatever? Didn't they, like, stop the investigation or whatever? Like, completely, like, shut it down? Like, it was a few months back. Maybe a year ago, but I remember something about that happening. It was completely shut down, and I remember people being upset about that. But then, this passes. And the big motivation here, that the reason why this was passed, was to protect kids. Now, in a perfect world, I know what they mean by this, and I see the positives there. Yes, in a perfect world, fine. I am on board. But the optics of this bill, or this act, this law that was passed, not bill, but this law that was passed and came into effect, it extends way beyond that. They got it passed thanks to the optics of wanting to protect kids, but it was never about protecting kids. There's a lot of evidence to support it wasn't about that. Even if we want to disregard the potential PDF ring or whatever was going on that was shut down, you have the situation where there has been people literally arrested in UK and in Europe for posting memes online. I mean, here's just a random Asmongold video actually from earlier this year. I'm just going to play the beginning of this. I'll just let him read it to you.
6 British officers arrest 2 parents in front of their children for criticizing a school. So this is
literally arresting parents for criticizing a school. There's been people arrested for memes, posting just random memes online, getting them arrested, or the police showing up to their door or whatever, and this is what the resources of the government of UK is using their money on. They're doing that. And so when you see a situation like this, it's very obvious what this is. This is not to protect kids. It's very obvious this is used to become a police state. It is used to become a state to watch over and stop people from doing what they don't want them to do, or figure out if they're having the wrong the wrong thoughts, for instance, that don't align with what they want. You know what we currently have going on right now? Shimoneta. We actually have sped run a Shimoneta reality. It's so insane to me that we are living in a year that is so close to Shimoneta actually being reality that it's sickening. Like, honestly, the situation is worse than Shimoneta, because obviously in Shimoneta, you have, like, a crazy yandere girl, you know, going after the guy, okay? And obviously people will be like, oh, I wish I had that. But that's not our reality, okay? Our reality is that you'll just straight up be thrown away for, or called, brought into question by police or authorities or whatever if you dare post anything that is of fictional content. It needs to be policed, it needs to be censored, it cannot be shown whatsoever. We have legitimately entered into a timeline to where Shimoneta is no longer could just be looked at as a parody or satire. It was a warning. It was a documentary on what would happen in society. Do I think that the author of Shimoneta ever intended the series to be that? No, definitely not. But as we get further and further, as the years tick on by, it's very obvious that we are reaching that type of reality. You have so many examples that I've covered just in the last week alone of so many different sites or different things getting censored that we're getting to that point. And there has been so many people that I have seen actively cheering for certain things getting censored. Like, for instance, the Steam. Steam obviously got rid of a bunch of incest games and all that, and I saw people cheering and be like, why would you be upset about them removing that? And here's the problem. It never stops at what you dislike. It's a slippery slope. It keeps going, and it gets worse and worse. And now people that used to cheer for censorship are now screaming and being like, I'm on your side now. I have actively seen those that have cheered for censorship over the years change and switch sides in just the last week alone and being like, yeah, I'm anti-censorship. And I'm just like, no, you're not. You're upset that your stuff finally got hit. And it's very obvious just who has been a part of the conversation and who hasn't. But regardless of that, even if I push that to the side, the point is that there is people that legit don't understand that this content that is being censored isn't real. It's fictional. It's not hurting anyone. It's not illegal. It is literally a video game. Or it is a manga. Or it's an anime. Okay? It's not hurting anyone. It doesn't do anything. That's it. And the fact that you have these payment processors, these companies, these governments, these activist groups coming in and basically dictating what you can or cannot watch, read, or play is evil. Actually evil. It is very evil. They should not have any right to do something like that. But also, on top of that, it leads into just control of the people. Obviously, even if we want to disregard payment processors in this case, since obviously we're talking about the UK stuff, this is really bad. Because what this does in UK, what this sets up, is other countries to follow. We have definitely seen a massive increase of censorship and people trying to go after others for fictional content and stuff like that. There's just been a heavy push. And this is the first step. If something is not done, if people don't speak up, and they don't talk about this more, it's going to get worse. People will start to say, oh, it's just the UK. It doesn't bug me. It doesn't bother me. It's not going to come and affect me. 10 years later, you're in the exact same situation. Yeah, it's 10 years later, but it still happened. The point is that it's a domino effect. Once the dominoes start to fall, or the slippery slope, you start to slip on it, it gets faster and faster. Which is why I talked about at the beginning of the video, the acceleration of censorship in just the last week alone. Is because these companies, these payment processors, these activist groups, these governments, they realize they can get away with it. They have too much power, so much control. They can get away with it. And that is the scary situation. It's really bad. This issue stems way beyond me just talking about anime and manga. I understand I'm an anime and manga channel, but this situation is so beyond that. It is a legitimate attack on freedom of expression, artistic freedom to draw what you want, to write what you want. And it's gross, man. It's actually gross that we are living in a timeline to where we're getting closer and closer to the memes becoming reality. And Shimoneta also being a documentary. I'll leave it at that. I wanted to talk about the situation. It's pretty bad. And I, once again, want to say, I may not live in UK, but it's important to talk about this because it's bad. I mean, what Stride here mentioned, which actually, you know, is very important here. He talks about how, like, some of the actual wording in the law literally discusses that it attacks fictional content, which means that you don't even need to be actually like a person or even depicted as a person. It could be a creature, and that's censored. That basically means, theoretically, like Lion King couldn't exist. Lion King would be unable to exist. Stitch, like Lilo and Stitch, wouldn't be able to exist. Aliens, any type of aliens or something, couldn't exist. What they're basically saying is that you cannot have any violence or anything that is for adults ever again. It's not good. This doesn't stop here. It's gonna get worse, and it will keep getting worse until more people find out about this and speak out about it. I'll leave it at that, though. Leave a like on the video if you enjoyed the video. Once again, sorry I didn't cover Takapi Original Sin today. I wanted to do it, but this obviously took priority. I will cover the episode tomorrow for Takapi. But I love you guys. Be safe, stay healthy. Chibi out.